How are we doing, guys? I want to talk to you about the bill of materials for the metalworking class and for our metalworking projects. This is going to apply to any project that you do in metalworking. We're going to use the same bill of materials sheet. It's designed so that we can use it for just about anything or any type of project. So let's go ahead and get started with it for our plasma cut shelf. So this is for the practice. This is our drawing over here that we got as our example for our practice to do our drawing and our bill of materials. So if we look at our bill of materials, we have part number, description. That's where we're going to start. So for each part we have on this top section, this top half of our bill of materials, this is going to be for all of our lineal metal. Okay, so we really can't see that in this isometric drawing. So I'm going to draw just a kind of freehand sketch in here just a little bit so you can kind of see what we're going to be including in our lineal metal section of our bill of materials. So if we look at our isometric over here, we're going to have a frame that comes in at 45 degrees on each corner. Again, this is just me kind of freehanding this in there so you can see what it's going to look like underneath. Okay, so we're going to have this frame underneath our sheet metal. So our sheet metal is going to wrap over the top of that so that covers it up. So the angle iron pieces that we're using here are going to be our structure, and then the sheet metal will be our trim that covers it up and makes it look nice. So for description, we're going to put in here something that's going to, when we look at it, when we read it, we know exactly what part of our project it is. So this is a frame, and we have two long pieces and two short pieces. You can name it whatever works for you. So I'm going to name it what works for me to remember when I read it. I know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to call this long. Make sure we're in single stroke Gothic here. Long frame. And then for my other two pieces, these are going to be the short frame. Okay. We move next over to the quantity, and you can do this one row at a time, which is how I'm going to continue from here on out. I just wanted to kind of get you an idea of what that's going to look like. But these are the only two things we're going to have listed on our lineal metal in this entire top section. We're not going to have any more parts other than these two, because everything else is a sheet good, which if we look down here at the bottom, this bottom section is for our sheet goods. So we're going to hold off on that. All right, so back up here to our lineal metal, we have our long frame pieces, which again are our front and back pieces of the frame. So we're going to have two long pieces. The metal shape we're going to use, or the metal type, however you want to think of that, is going to be 1 inch angle iron. So I'm going to type in 1 angle. That means 1 inch angle iron. Now my cost per foot, I'm going to have to look at my metal price list that's posted on Google Classroom. Right here, metal prices. My drawing's over the top of here, but we can still see. So our sheet metal is going to be 24 gauge. So this is the price per foot on the sheet metal. And we scroll down here till we get to the angle section. We're going to use 1 inch angle. So that's going to be $1.10. Okay, so if we go back to our bill of materials here, cost for 1 inch angle is $1.10. All right, length, and in parentheses says in inches. So how long are our long frame pieces? Well, our long frame pieces, because it's at a 45-degree miter here, it extends all the way out the full length. And our dimension right underneath here says 10. So the length is going to be 10. This right here is what confuses a lot of people, because they think, well, I have two and they're 10 inches long, so I should put 20 here. That's incorrect. Do not put 20 for your length, because that would say that we had two 20-inch pieces when we really only need two 10-inch pieces. Okay, so this is our cut list, or our shopping list, however you want to think of it, but we have two pieces that are 10 inches long. that's what we need to know, because when we go to the saw and the metal rack, we're going to pull out a piece of 1 inch angle and we're going to cut 2 pieces that are 10 inches each. Okay. Now I have my calculations as my next thing that I need to do. So feet is the next cell I need to figure out. So how many total feet of this 1 inch angle do I have? And I need to know how many feet because I'm being charged by the foot. Just like you go to the gas station, you're charged by the gallon. So we go to the metal yard and we are charged by the foot. So we're going to take our quantity times our length. So 2 times 10 is going to give us 20. And then we divide it by 12 to convert those inches into feet. And that gives us 1.6 repeating. So we're going to round to 2 decimal places to make it 1.67. The next cell we need to fill out is our cost. The way we figure out our cost is we take our cost per foot and we multiply that by how many feet we have. So we're going to take 1.1 times 1.67, and that's going to give us 1.837. And again, we're rounding to 2 decimal places, so it's going to look like 1.84. You're going to do the exact same thing for your short frame pieces, okay? I'm going to leave that blank so that you can fill that part out. And we're going to skip on down to this lower section, the bottom of our top section down here. Now we see where it says metal shape, metal shape, metal shape, metal shape. That is there, like I said in the beginning of this video, so that we can tailor this to any project. In our particular project, both of these pieces are going to only have one metal shape. And it's going to be 1 inch angle. So for metal shape, here I'm going to type 1 angle. Okay. If I had 1 inch angle and 1 inch square tubing, that's 2 different metal shapes. I would include my 1 inch angle here, and then I would put my 1 inch square tubing. And I would list it that way. And then I would come up here and I would take my total feet. So all of my 1 inch angle sections, I would add together and put that there. All of my 1 inch square tubing, I'd add all those feet together and put that total here. But I don't have 1 inch square tubing. All I have is 1 inch angle. So I'm going to take all of my feet. Once I get all my 2 rows calculated, I'm going to take these 2 numbers. I'm going to add them together to get my total feet. Okay. So add all feet. Okay, that's what I'm going to do to get that answer. Total cost is the same thing, except for now we're in the cost column. So since I'm using 1 inch angle, I can do it one of 2 ways. I can add up my 2 feet here and put my total here, or I can take my total feet and multiply it by 1.1, my cost per foot. And that's going to give me that cost answer as well. So either way you look at it, you're going to get the same answer. So just to keep it consistent, I'm going to say add all costs. Okay. When I add all my costs together, that's going to total my cost for all of my lineal metal, since I only have 1 metal shape. If I had more than 1 metal shape, I would have to add all of my total costs together to get my total lineal metal cost. So I don't need to add multiple costs together. I only have 1. So when I add all my costs from up above, that's going to be this answer and this answer. Okay. And again, that's because I only have 1 type of metal shape in this entire project for lineal metal. Okay, so I just copy from here down to here. And then I'm done with my top section. Let's go down to the sheet goods section and talk about that one. So this is going to be extremely similar, but this is sheet goods. So the difference is all of our lineal metal comes in a stick, a straight line. So everything we measure is just measured in a straight line. With sheet goods, this is calculated by area. So I'm looking for the width and the length. So that would be like my back piece here. I have a width of 10 and a length of 15. Okay. So I'm going to need both of those numbers to complete my bill of materials for my sheet goods. So let's start just like we did up top. We have a description, part number 1. I'm going to call this my back. And that's going to be my main back section right here. That's going to have my, my design cut into it right here. The other one is going to be my shelf wrap. Okay, and I'm going to call that shelf wrap. Again, if there's something, a different way to describe that so that you know exactly what that part is, then type it however you want. Just make sure it's very clear. When I read that, I know what you're talking about. And when you read it, you know what you're talking about. All right, so for this, I'm only going to have one for a quantity for each of these. Okay. And I'm going to actually show you the shelf wrap section because when we figure out how big it is, that's a little bit more difficult to do. So I want to make sure you know how to do that. The back section is literally just how wide it is by how long it is, because it's just a big flat rectangle. Okay. All right. So let's go to our gauge. Now in our drawing over here, we have a note that's up top. And this note tells us that the shelf is made from 1-inch angle iron with mitered corners, then wrapped with 24 gauge sheet metal. So for gauge for our sheet metal, we're going to put 24. Okay. You can put 24 GA or 24 gauge in there if you want, but since the heading says gauge, we just really need to put 24. Now our cost per foot, again, we're going to consult our metal price list, and we're doing sheet metal, 24 gauge, $2.60. Go back here. Cost per foot is $2.60, $2.60. All right, length and width are our next two columns. So for the shelf wrap, it's literally going to be wrapped over both ends and the front. So 3 sides are going to be wrapped. The back side back here doesn't get wrapped because we're going to mount the angle iron directly to the back piece itself. So we're not going to have a need to wrap that around the back. Again, the wrap is so that it looks nice and it covers up any of those things that don't look nice. So we don't need to cover up anything in the back because the back is going to do that job for us. So what is the length? It looks like 10 by 4. That's incorrect because we're wrapping it over 1 inch here on this end and 1 inch here on this end. So 10 plus 1 is 11 plus 1 over here is 12. So my length is going to be 12. My width, I'm going to use the same method. I'm only wrapping it around the front 1 inch. So since it's 4, I add my 1 inch down over the front. So it's going to be 5. Okay, now my next column is square inches. I'm going to take my length times my width to get my square inches. And again, that's an area calculation. So I'm using 2 different dimensions here rather than just my length. So we're going to take our quantity, which is 1, so we don't need to include it in our, when we punch it in the calculator. We're going to take 12 times 5, which gives us 60. So we have 60 square inches for our shelf wrap. So that's in inches, and we need to convert it into feet because, again, our sheet metal is calculated in square feet. So this is our cost per square foot. Now you might be thinking, well, why is it 144 instead of 12? And that's because 1 square foot is 12 inches long and 12 inches wide. So if we were going to calculate how many square inches is in 1 square foot, we'd go 12 times 12, which gives us 144. So this is where that 144 comes from. So 144 square inches is 1 square foot. Okay, so we take our 60 and we divide by 144 and we get our square feet of 0.416 repeating. So that's going to round to 0.42 square feet. Next, we have our cost. And that's going to be calculated the same way our cost was up above. We're going to take our square feet times our cost per square foot. So 0.42 times 2.6. And that's going to give us 1.092. So that's going to round to $1.09. Okay. All right. I'm going to let you do the back by yourself. Let's skip down here to the bottom section. We have the same situation as up above. We have 24 gauge sheet metal for both of our pieces here, and we don't have any more pieces. So we're only going to need to use this top row. We don't need to use all of these other 3 rows here. So metal gauge is 24. Our total square feet, we're going to add all of our square feet together. Add all square feet. Okay. Total cost, same thing for above. We can either add our total cost or add all of our costs together, or we can take our total square feet and multiply it by $2.60, and it's going to give us our same answer. Again, keep it consistent. I'm just going to say add all costs. And these down here are going to be blank. Okay. Sheet metal cost. How much is all of our sheet metal going to cost? Well, since we only have one kind of metal gauge, all of our costs are going to be here. So again, we're just going to copy this here and put it here. So I'm going to say add all costs. So it's the same way you're going to figure out your total cost up here. Then we're almost done. All we have left is our project cost and our total cost to the student. So your project cost is going to be the total of both the top section and bottom section. So these bolded cells here, you're going to add those two together. So add lineal and sheet goods. And that's how you're going to get your project cost. So you take your project cost, just for the sake of being simple here, I'm going to say it's going to cost $15 for this if I were to add my totals together. That's not the right answer. I'm just going to throw a number out there that's easy to calculate. So if our project costs $15, we'd take 15 minus 50 and we'd get minus $35. Okay, that means our student's total cost is negative $35, meaning you have a $35 credit still left in your account. Okay, that's what the negative number there means. So if our total project cost ended up being $65, we would take 65 minus 50 and end up with $15. Okay, student total cost is $15. That would mean that you would have to bring in $15 out of your own money to pay for the rest of this project. Okay, I hope that helps clarify everything for the bill of materials. And again, you can utilize this bill of materials sheet for just about any metalworking project. So watch this, rewatch certain sections that you don't understand. And then if you still have questions after you've watched it and rewatched it and skimmed through the extra sections that you needed to rewatch, we need to sign up for ACLab, and you can come in and talk to me during ACLab. And we'll make sure that you get this figured out, because this is not going to go away where you need to do one of these for every project we do. Okay. All right. Good luck, guys, and I will see you next time.